and perhaps even by her children. Her role was to be a pious wife and an attentive mother. Being a sacrificial lamb meant a place would be reserved for her in heaven. Even if it meant that her life would be hell, surely Allah would see her sacrifice and allow her into Jannat, the prized heaven. I don't know much about my father's life before he met my mother, but I'd heard stories of him hitchhiking through Iran in the 1970s and working as a dishwasher in Hamburg for racist restaurant owners and coming close to death several times over the course of his travels. I'd look with curiosity at all the young Pakistani men in the black and white photographs from Istanbul, remnants of a life he's too ashamed to talk about. Years later, he would insist that my brother keep his hair short and respectful. Yet in those early photos, which showed traces of a life full of adventures, long, thick layers and wispy bangs frame his face as he looks back at the camera in a snug leather jacket and tight bell-bottoms, his hand resting on his waist. He would say that his life began when he married my mother, but I had to wonder whether he was simply trying to convince himself. After a series of miscarriages, my mother became pregnant with me. At which point my great-grandmother, who had enjoyed the freedom of not having a husband for decades after being widowed, ordered my mother to move in with her. She was certain that the stress of being a dutiful wife and looking after my father and his family was not good for her pregnancy. For 9 months, she and the older women in the family took care of my mother by making sure she was well fed, adequately rested, and had very little interaction with men. My father was to visit her only on Fridays until I was born. When I was just 6 months old, my father embraced me tightly as he sped around on his candy-red Kawasaki, showing me off to his friends. I hadn't yet done anything to earn my parents' pride, but they were always so vocal about what a blessing I was. My mother still shows me pictures of the outfits she sewed and dressed me in solely so she could stare at me for hours. According to her, one of my first full sentences was, "Stop staring at me." "We prayed every day to have you," my father told me several times as he braided my hair before nursery school. My mother would give birth to 2 more girls, each of us a year and a half apart. By the time their 3rd daughter was born, family members and neighbors were in mourning. They would drop by unannounced and express their condolences to my parents for having yet another girl. Being parents to daughters meant mounting burdens. It didn't guarantee the prosperity that having sons did. Boys were free to go out and generate income for the family, whereas girls needed to be sheltered from the dangerous outside world until it was time to pass them on to their new guardians, their husbands. Daughters were additional mouths to feed, and dowries for them had to be accumulated before marriage. My father told the mourning guests to kindly go to hell, and in an act of stubbornness and, perhaps most important, love, named his 3rd daughter Shahzadi, meaning princess. Our growing family lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment in Angori Bagh, a working-class neighborhood of Lahore. Cats, goats, roosters, and children freely roamed the narrow, brick-lined streets. Mothers bathed their children outside with a bucket of water from a tap at the end of our street. Later in life, whenever I'd claim I was too good for something or that a garment looked cheap, my mother would gladly remind me that I used to piss barefoot outside in Angori Bagh, which was true. I would cover the bottom half of my body with a large shawl as I peed in the drain beside our house, where dirty laundry water ran beneath me, smelling of the same laundry soap everyone in the neighborhood used. We would get it from Nassim up the street, who was kind and trustworthy, unlike the men who would congregate at the foot of the hill that led to Nassim's convenience store. They hissed and murmured, "Bohat pyari gori hai." What a beautiful, fair-skinned woman. At my mom as her grip around me and my toddler sister tightened, and she raised her burqa to ensure that only her dismissive eyes were visible. It seemed that no matter how much her burqa covered her up and hid her silhouette, nothing could protect her from the vulgar comments and predatory eyes of neighborhood men. Even being accompanied by her 2 young children wasn't enough to keep them at bay. I liked going to Nassim's convenience store with my mom because I could pick out my favorite jam, usually strawberry, Sometimes